Title: The Smiling Man Sightings, Real Encounters Across the United States. Before you continue, subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment now, because the story you're about to hear is not a legend, not an internet creepypasta, and not fiction. These are real reports made by ordinary people across the United States who describe the same disturbing encounter with no connection to each other. The first widely documented account came from a woman named Sarah Thompson in Portland, Oregon. In 2006, Sarah shared her experience publicly after years of silence. At the time, she was living alone in a quiet residential neighborhood. One night, shortly after midnight, she was walking home from a friend's house. The street was empty. No cars, no noise, just the sound of her own footsteps. That was when she noticed a man standing on the sidewalk ahead of her. He was tall, thin, and completely still. What stood out wasn't his clothes or his posture, it was his face. He was smiling. Not a friendly smile. Not a normal one. Sarah later described it as too wide and unnatural, as if he was forcing his face into an expression he didn't understand. At first, she assumed he was intoxicated or mentally unwell. She crossed the street to avoid him. When she looked back, the man had crossed too. He wasn't walking normally. His movements were stiff, exaggerated, almost jerky, like he was copying what he thought walking was supposed to look like. Sarah quickened her pace. The man didn't run. He didn't chase her. He simply followed, still smiling. When he spoke, it was worse. "Don't be afraid," he said, in a voice that sounded strained, like he hadn't used it in a long time. Sarah ran. She reached her apartment building and slammed the door behind her, locking it immediately. From her window, she watched the man stand in the street below. He never looked angry. He never stopped smiling. After several minutes, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. Sarah didn't call the police that night. She convinced herself it was a one-time encounter. Just bad luck. A strange person in the wrong place. She was wrong. Over the next several years, similar reports surfaced in different states. Illinois, California, Florida. The witnesses didn't know each other. They didn't share the same backgrounds. Some were college students. Some were parents. Some were night shift workers. But their descriptions were almost identical. A tall, pale man. An unnaturally wide smile. Jerky, awkward movements. And a feeling of overwhelming dread the moment they noticed him. In Chicago, a man named Daniel Reed reported seeing the figure outside his apartment complex at 2 a.m. He was taking out the trash when he noticed someone standing near the parking lot. The man waved, slowly, deliberately, while smiling. Daniel froze. He later said his body reacted before his mind did, as if every instinct told him to leave immediately. When Daniel turned to go back inside, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, uneven, never speeding up. He locked himself inside and called the police. Officers arrived within minutes. They found no one. In Fresno, California, a teenage girl named Emily Walker told her parents about a man she saw standing at the end of her driveway late at night. He smiled and tilted his head as if studying her. When her father went outside to confront him, the man was gone. No footprints. No sound. No explanation. At first, law enforcement treated each report separately. Isolated incidents. Misidentifications. Fear amplified by darkness. But a few investigators began noticing similarities in the written statements. The same phrases appeared again and again. He didn't blink. It didn't feel human. Something was wrong. Psychologists suggested sleep deprivation, anxiety, or pareidolia, the brain filling in patterns where none exist. Those explanations worked on paper. They didn't explain why so many people described the same behavior without ever having heard of the others. The name, the Smiling Man, didn't come from the media. It came from the witnesses themselves. And once the name existed, more people came forward. People who had stayed silent for years. People who didn't want to sound crazy. People who thought they were alone. They weren't. As reports of the Smiling Man continued, researchers and journalists began compiling accounts into timelines. The earliest known sightings dated back decades, long before social media could influence public perception. These weren't stories copied from the internet. They were statements pulled from police records, neighborhood watch reports, and local interviews buried in small newspapers. One of the most disturbing patterns was location. The Smiling Man wasn't seen in crowded places. He appeared in quiet residential areas, late at night or early in the morning. He never approached groups. He never entered homes. He was always just close enough to be seen and far enough to escape. In suburban Ohio, a woman named Laura Bennett reported seeing the man outside her bedroom window at 3:17 a.m. She was awake, scrolling on her phone, when she felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. When she looked up, he was there, standing perfectly still, smiling directly at her through the glass. She screamed. Her husband ran in. The man was gone. Security cameras showed nothing. In Texas, a night shift security guard named Mark Ellis described encountering the figure while patrolling an industrial park. According to Mark, the man stood beneath a broken streetlight, smiling as Mark approached. When Mark radioed for backup and looked away for just a moment, the man vanished. Mark later resigned from his job. Some skeptics pointed to urban legends and copycat behavior. Others argued mass suggestion. But those explanations struggled to account for one detail that appeared in multiple police reports: the witnesses' physical reactions. Rapid heart rate, nausea, loss of motor control, a sense of immediate danger. These reactions occurred before the witnesses had time to think or rationalize what they were seeing. In 2014, a criminologist named Dr. Alan Moore published a paper analyzing the Smiling Man phenomenon. He didn't claim anything supernatural. Instead, he suggested the encounters triggered an ancient fear response, something deeply wired into the human brain. According to Moore, humans are extremely sensitive to facial expressions. A smile that doesn't match context or emotion can trigger fear faster than overt aggression. The Smiling Man's expression violated every social rule humans instinctively understand. But even Moore admitted his theory didn't explain the consistency of the reports. Why the same smile? Why the same movements? Why the same silence? Another theory suggested the sightings were encounters with an unidentified individual or group deliberately behaving in disturbing ways. But no arrests were ever made. No suspect was ever identified. No credible evidence of coordinated behavior emerged. And then there were the disappearances. While no case definitively linked the Smiling Man to a missing person, several witnesses reported seeing him shortly before someone vanished from their neighborhood. In each case, law enforcement found no connection strong enough to pursue. Still, the timing unsettled investigators. People began changing routines. Parents warned children not to walk alone at night. Neighborhood groups installed lights and cameras. Some witnesses moved away entirely. The Smiling Man never reacted. He didn't escalate. He didn't threaten. He didn't speak more than a few words. He simply appeared and left. And that, many said, was the most terrifying part. Today, reports of the Smiling Man still surface, though less frequently. Some believe awareness drove him away. Others believe people stopped reporting sightings out of fear of ridicule. Law enforcement maintains there is no verified evidence of a single individual responsible. Each case remains officially unexplained. No charges, no suspects, no closure. But for the people who encountered him, the experience never faded. Many describe long-term anxiety, difficulty sleeping, a constant urge to check windows and doors. Some avoid walking alone at night entirely. They don't call it trauma. They call it instinct, because whatever they saw felt wrong. In interviews years later, witnesses still struggle to describe the smile. Words fail them. They gesture. They shake their heads. Some refuse to draw it. Others say they still see it in dreams. Psychologists argue the fear lingers because the encounter defied logic. Humans rely on patterns to feel safe. The smiling man broke every pattern. He wasn't violent. He wasn't aggressive. He didn't belong. And yet he was there. Some researchers suggest the phenomenon may represent something we don't yet understand about human perception, behavior, or the brain's response to threat. Others insist there must be a mundane explanation waiting to be discovered. But until that explanation arrives, the reports remain scattered, consistent, unresolved. If you walk alone late at night and feel the urge to look over your shoulder, you're not imagining things. You're listening to the same instinct that told those witnesses to run. And if you ever see someone standing too still, smiling too wide, watching without blinking, don't wait to understand it. Just leave.